Yeah, so let's get started. Are you getting any background noise or something? There is some all
All good.
all good? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the table of content that we have. So we are going to look into the visualization libraries and a few of the demonstrations. So we are going to use Matplotlib and Seaborn. So these are the two libraries that we generally need for the data visualization part. So now that you can see, so first we have to import pandas as PD. So pandas is still there. And after this, we actually have to import matplotlib.pyp plot, I mean pyplot as PLT. Okay, so this is a library, matplotlib means library, Python plot. So we abbreviate this as PLT. And then there is a Seaborn. So Seaborn is also another library, which is an advanced library in comparison to matplotlib. This is much more basic, but we are going to use both the libraries today. Okay, so this is how we suppress the warnings. So, at times the machine, actually keeps on throwing a few warnings there. So you can suppress all the, warnings that you get by the machine. So you just have to do import warnings and then you filter warnings, all the warnings that you get. So you filter them by ignoring them. Okay, so this is what you have. Okay. Now, in the Seaborn dataset, Seaborn library, you get a variety of datasets as well, which can be used in terms of demonstrating the visualizations. So we have referred to one such dataset, which is TIPS dataset, and this is how we load the dataset. So once you import the Seaborn library there, so you can just name the data. So we have named it as TIPS underscore data, and SNS. So this is the abbreviation for Seaborn. And then this is the command that we use, load underscore dataset, and then tips is the name of the dataset. Okay, and then we are just printing out the head of the dataset. So we are calling the first 10 entries. If you don't give anything, so by default it gives you 5, I guess. So this is how the data looks like. So here you get total bill. So this is tips related to restaurant service. So you have the total bill amount and then the tip amount, the gender, whether the person is a smoker or not, and the day, which day, and whether it's lunch or dinner, and the size of the customer actually. Yeah. So this is how the data is. So is there any concern related to the data, or you got it like what is there? All good?
All good.
Yeah. Okay. So next, let's just move on to the plots now. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So the other way to install matplotlib will be this, the PIP install. So if that doesn't work out, so you can just always do this PIP install. Also that we need NumPy, to as because we will be dealing with the numbers. So here what happens is that so we have defined x as 1 to 20 and 100 observations, right? So if you refer to this one, if you refer to the range for x, so that is starting from 1 till 20, right? So we are pulling 20 observations from the initial observation of 1 to the terminal of 20 and 100 observations. Okay, so these are the values of x, of course, and then y is the exponential of x. So we are using NumPy, right? NP dot all this, and then we are plotting this using this function, plt dot plot xy, and then plt dot show, so which will give you this result, and you can see that this gives you an exponential curve where the values get started from around 1 to 20. Okay, so let's just move on further. Yeah, exponential increase in y. So now the same thing, so this is a very basic representation if we want to use this plot function. So instead, what we do here is now that we write r star, right? So not just a plt dot plot like what we did in here, xy. Other than that, like we add this one in a course, that r star, so which converts everything, these data points, into stars, red stars, basically. So we can change the colors or shapes of the data points. There can be multiple line plots in one plot. Let's plot 3-point plots together in a single graph. Okay, so this is how we do it. So now we are considering the same x, but now we are defining 3 of these variables, y1, y2, y3, as y1 is just same as that of x, y2 is the squared value of x, and y3 is the square root of x. So these are the 3 variables that we're dealing with now. So we just have to define this. So x, y1, so this is r, that means red. X, y2, so that plot is b, which is blue, and then you have x, y3, which is green. Okay, and if you want to put a title to the plot, like what we have here, so for that we write plt dot title, and this is line plot, right? So this is what you get. So now you can see that in one graph you get all the 3 lines, right? And these indications are there, and of course you can improve this furthermore. Okay, so we are going to learn all the plots, on the basis of this data set, and side by side analyze all the aspects of how to look into the visualizations as well. So yeah, so this is the head, and then now we are trying to design a scatter plot. So what we are trying to check is the total bill and the tip amount, so how they are related, and how to find that from the graph. So now you see that x is your total bill, so which is independent, and y is your tip amount, so which is somewhat a function of the total bill. I mean, logically it should be. So that's how we take this as a dependent variable. And then this is the command for scatter plot, plt.scatter xy. And if you want to add labels to this plot, so you can just write plt.x label, so total bill, total underscore bill, and you have plt y label, which is your tip, which shows up here, right? And this is how you see. So any in general, like what will be your inference looking into this plot? So this is what we want to understand. Yeah, what is your take on this plot? What can you see? Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, okay. So Spandana, you tell me, like, what do you look into? What can you infer from this presentation?
Like
Yeah, this is very basic. I mean,
the total bill, like comparison.
Yeah, come again. I couldn't hear you. What? Could you repeat?
This is a comparison, like for the total bill, what is the tip given?
Yeah, that's the format of the graph. That's okay. But what is the inference? What is the take on the outcome? You can clearly see that, like if you plot the total bill along the x-axis, so this is 10, say dollars. Suppose we are dealing with dollars. So if the amount if the total bill is around $10, then the tip should be around 2, right? So for 20, it's around 4, right? Like that. So if just you notice the pattern of the data, so you can see that there is a positive trend, no? Like it is having a positive slope, right? So with the increment of the total bill, yeah, so it's more likely that the tip amount should also increase. More the bill, more the total bill.
Yes.
Yeah, so the more the tip amount should be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like
if
the graph will increase as the tip, the
yeah,
total bill will increase. Okay.
as the total bill increases, so the tip amount also is more likely to increase, right? So,
Okay.
but you have exceptions to this, where you can see that this point, if you consider this particular point, so the bill amount is around less than 35 to 30 32 32 33 around, but still the tip amount is really low, right? So there are exceptions, but altogether, if you follow the trend of the data set, so you can see that like there is a somewhat a positive slope, what you can see from this data set, right? Okay,
Yes.
so yeah, we are going to explore more aspects of the data set. So let's just look into. Okay, so how can I? Is it better? Oh God. Are you getting the background noises?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a bit of banging.
A bit of that. Should I just shut my window? Will that help?
Maybe you can try.
Yeah. Just a second. Huh? Excuse me for 1 minute. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Sorry for that. Okay. So now we can here we can see that we can play with the colors, opacity, and shape of the data points. So the same thing. It's again total bill versus tip, but here we are going to improve our plot visualization experience using a few of these things. So what we did here is S is for shape. Now for that we have introduced this np.array, and we have used y square. Okay, and C is for color, which we have specified as green, and alpha is for opacity. So anything in between 0 to 1. So this is how we have specified, all the inputs, uh, X, Y, S. So what does this do? I mean, this S is equal to NP array Y squared. This actually makes, all the data points much bigger in size. So lesser the value, so the square value will be lesser in comparison higher value, right? So you can differentiate the relative sparsity, or uh, the difference in between higher total bill. So that this is much more prominent, right, in terms of a data point. So all the higher end values are much prominent in compared to the lower end values, right? So that's what we can achieve from here. And we have green and alpha equal to 0.8. Now opacity is just that you can see that all these points are clearly visible when compared to all this the other points that you have here. So that is the opacity thing that you have. Yeah. So plot dot title, X label, Y label, and this is how we get to see the outcome as. Okay. So next we look into, so the bubbles with greater radius displays the tip amount is more as compared to the bubbles with less radius. Yeah. So this is also there, right? So more prominent the point, so that actually gives you the more tip amount, and whereas where you have bubbles with less radius like this, so certainly that is lesser tip amount. Okay. So next, let's just look into bar plot. Yeah. So from here, we are just trying to compare this attribute smoker, and if you see that we are dealing this as a set, right? So we are defining this as a set from the tips data for the smoker column, no and yes, and this is what we are trying to see. So of course that the bar graph actually gives you the count of your attribute. So basically it works as a count data. So kind is equal to bar, as because we are looking to bar plot, and this returns the categoric labels horizontally, not equal to 0, and this is the command. So from tips data, we are choosing smoker, and then we are using value underscore count. So this is a function which will give you the count value, total count value. And we are trying to plot that where you have kind equals to bar, because you are looking into a bar diagram, and rot equals to 0, right? So, and this is how you get the plot. So you can see that majority of you know the customers, right? So they are non-smokers, whereas few of them are smokers. Okay, so let's add the count of smokers and non-smokers, access levels, and title to the above plot. So this is how we should actually look into any data visualization, while we actually take up to learn things. So first we have to understand the basic thing, which will give you the visualization first. And then we are going to try to improve that by bringing in a few more parameters as we keep on adding, and making it better. So, sorry. Yeah. So this is how we get bar plot. So all these things remains the same, right? But just that we have here plt.text, which adds text to the plot, right? So that is a new thing that you have, plt.text. And also you can play with the positions of X and Y on the axis. Okay. And S is the text that is what you have to add. So for plt text, now X is equal to minus 0.05. So that is, so if this is 0, minus 0.05 will be towards the left hand side, right? So that in there, for Y equals to tips underscore data smokers value count. So what you are doing here is you are adding this count value. Okay. And same as in here as well. So this will actually enable you this value that you get. So it will count the value and also show you like that you are having 151 no and 193 of them are smokers. And also that, we have labeled it accordingly. Okay. So this count smokers, all this are there. Okay. So is this understood? So all good till here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So next we have this pie plot. So now you know that, of course, we have to have a categorical variable, so that we can have the count data according to the categories that we have. So this is the distribution of the customers. So you can see that on the weekends, so on the weekends, maybe Saturday, Sundays, you have more customers when it's compared to Friday. But there are relatively, not less customers on Thursday as well. So that is how, real life data looks like. So it's not that the usual logic that what we try to find or look into a data set that will, solely hold true. Okay, so this is what we have here. So plot the occurrence of different days in the data set. So auto PCT. So this is the thing. Okay, so which displays the percentage up to 1 decimal place. Like you can see that all the percentages are shown for the categories. So all these are done using this function auto PCT, and radius is something which will give you the radius for the pie plot. Okay, so this is the command plt.py. Okay, and first you have to decide, on the data set, and that you have to count out the values. So you have tips underscore data dot day. So this is your column, right? So this is your attribute, and then you have to count that, and then auto percentage. This is how you represent this auto PCT. 0.1 means that it will only consider up to 1 decimal place. So if you increase this as 0.3, so that it will take till 3 decimal places. The radius is the width or the radius of the circle, and then you have to specify the labels as well accordingly, right? Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, and Friday. So this is what you have, and then PLT show. So this gives you this sort of a diagram. So clearly now you can see that on Fridays, you actually expect less customers in comparison to Saturdays and Sundays, but there is something on Thursday which is not that bad, you know. So let's just look into what's written here. So from the above plot, it can be seen that the data has a high proportion for Saturday followed by Sunday. Yeah, which is true. Exploded pie plot is a plot in which one or more sectors are separated from the disk. So it's just that you are, like pulling out a pie like that, a piece out of the pie like that. So here, I mean, everything remains the same. It's just that we have to use this explode thing, okay? And we are using this correspondingly, respectively with the labels. So if I want Friday to come out, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you just have to 1, 2, 3, 4. So everything else remains 0 only for this. Okay, so this is the amount or the magnitude by which you want this to explode or come out. So that's 0.5. So you can have a value of your own accordingly, like how much you want this amount of data, so that, I mean, this can be differentiated from the other data that you have. Okay, next what we have is something called a donut plot, which is pretty much the same. It's just a bit more colorful, or I mean, pie plot is boring, of course, in terms of like we have been using that for quite some time. So this is a new thing that we have as donut plot. So this looks like a donut, and I mean, everything, other than this, like everything is quite similar when compared to that of the pie plot. So again, plt.py, and then we have this, everything remains same. So up to this is the same. Now you have to add a circle, and plt.circle. So this is the center of the circle, and then this is the radius of like how much of the width that you want to give there. Okay, this one, this white area, colors white, and then you have plot. So this is there. So these are the comments that you actually have to put in so that you can get a donut. I mean, just to see, not to it, of course. So clearly you can see that Saturday, Sunday, you have more footfall when compared to that of Friday. Okay, and then you have histogram. So this is a really important thing, histogram. So this is something which is used to display the distribution and spread of the continuous variable. One axis represents the range of the variable, and the other axis shows the frequency of the data points. In a histogram, there are no gaps between the bars. So this is one thing, which is a primary difference to that of the bar plot. So here you don't have any gaps. So the data is always continuous. Okay, so this is what you have as the data. So now we are trying to look into the distribution of tip, which is a continuous variable, and let's plot the histogram to understand the distribution of the variable, right? So this is a function dot hist. So this is how we use to plot a histogram, and then tips underscore data. So from there we are selecting tip, and now this is something that we have to specify before bins. So that will give you that how many of these divisions that you will have. Okay, so that is like bins. So now you can see that this is 1 bin, 2 bin, 3, 4, 5, right? So we have 5 separations, or 5 boundaries that we have considered there. Okay, and this is the title, X lab, Y lab, like all these things are there, X label, Y label, right? So this is tip frequency, okay, and plot dot show. So this gives you the distribution, which looks like somewhat like this. So again, See, this part is machine learning, right? Of course, I mean that you have to, input commands to generate this graph, and which is statistics, right? So now you have to look into this graph and infer for, the distribution of the tip amount. Now, as you can see that, lower the tip amounts, of course, the frequency is much more higher. So there are more customers, those who are tipping less quantity, right? And relatively, you see that there are lesser number of customers, those who are tipping more, right? See, this frequency is really, really less when compared to, any one of these. Also, what are the other things that you can infer from here? I mean, I've already given you a hint, So as you can see that this is left heavy distribution, right? So I mean, in connection to skewness of a distribution, so you can see that this is skewed, right? And that this is skewed to right, or positively skewed like that way. Okay. Because you have the I mean, the most concentration is on this part, and you have less concentration on this part, right? Okay, see, this is already mentioned here, so it's positively skewed. Okay. So could you get this part? You know skewness, right? Of course. That is there on the statistics part as well. So you can just, in case if you want to just recapitulate the whole idea, so you can just have a look into the statistics portion. Okay. So are we good? Are we clear till this part, till histogram? Okay. Next is box plot, which is perhaps the most important thing when to look into a data set, because this can really give you, I mean, so much of information. So let's just read out. So box plot is a way to visualize the 5-number summary of the variable. 5-number summary, like there are 5 things that you get from here, like minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, and maximum. It's 5 of this, right? And box plot gives you information about the outliers in the data. So if you want to clean the data, so this is really handy in terms of locating the outliers first and detecting the outliers first, and once we detect them correctly, we can get them removed, from our data set. And this also tells us about the distribution of the data, right? All good? Okay. So now this is the function box plot, and just this will give you the outcome there. PLT box plot, tips underscore data, and total bill. So it will give you the distribution. But that if you want to add the labels so that it is presentable, so we just have to include this plt.text. So wherever we have to include some text or something, we have to use this function plt.text, and we have to specify like where do we want to get that text. So this is 1.1. So if this is 1, so 1.1 will be here, somewhere here, and you see that all these texts are on the 1.1 axis of x, and in y you are trying to plot tips data. So from there, so you have minimum, right? So this is the text. So for minimum dot min, right? So that's the minimum. So for that you write minimum, right? And then say for y, so you have the whole thing, right? And then you use this quantile. So quantile 0.25. So that will give you the first quantile, and this is your text. So for that, you are trying to denote it by Q1. So you get Q1, right? So on the basis of y, you are doing this, right? Okay. So if y is minimum, so then you get minimum here. If y is 0.25, right? So on the basis of that, you are trying to, specify things. So total bill for maximum. Similarly, you can find the median. So you can use quantile 0.5 as well, because quantile 0.5 and median I mean, are just the same. So then you have this 0.75 for the third quartile and the maximum. So this is the 5 point that you got covered. I mean, with all these labels. And this is the title of the graph that we put up here, box plot of total bill amount. And then you have Y label, which is the total bill. Okay. Now, if you look into this outcome, this data representation, so we can actually see that the median, so this value is the median. Okay, so first let me just tell you like what are these values basically. So these are the whiskers that you have, right? These are the whiskers that you have, and this is your interquartile range. So interquartile range means that from Q1 to Q3, so from 25% of the data set till 75% of the data set. So all this belong to this box, right? And these are the whiskers. You know, whiskers will give you, so this is the minimum value, and this should be the maximum value. And anything beyond this can be treated as outliers. Now, why so? Because as you know from the central limit theorem that the distribution should tend to normality, with the increment in the sample size. So when compared to normal distribution, so this is how we design the thing. So the whiskers are therefore like specified using the formula that you have. So with 1.5 of that of the length, and so that's how so that it resembles to that of the normal distribution. So anything beyond that which can cause trouble or extra burden in terms of handling the data. So for that we are getting these whiskers, and anything beyond that we can refer that as to uh, outliers. Okay, and you could always have like values which is even lesser than this value as well, the lower whisker. Here we don't have anything as such, so that's why the lower whisker is the minimum value. But here you can see even after beyond the upper whiskers, you have the other values which which are the maximum values. Okay, so let's just read out from here. So the above box plot clearly shows that the presence of outliers above the horizontal line. We can add an arrow to showcase the outliers. Also, the median Q2 is represented by the orange line, which is near to Q1 and Q3. This shows that the total bill is positively skewed. Now, how do you know that this is positively skewed? See, again, from the symmetricity, if this data set, if this is symmetric, then of course the distance, the median should lie in between Q1 and Q3, right? I mean, in the middle of Q1 and Q3. But instead, you see that there is a shift towards a down. There is a shift towards Q1 for this value of the median. Q2 is much closer to Q1 in comparison to Q3, right? And there you can see that there is a positively skewness. There is a skewness there, right? Had it been the other way around, like say this median, if that is shifted upwards towards Q3, then of course you would have negatively skewed to left, right? Like that. Okay, so could you get this part? This is really important in terms of EDA, that we should be able to identify the outliers and understand box plot, because this is really important. Okay, so are there any queries or concerns related to whatever we have done so far? You know box plots, right?
So once can you repeat box plot? Like
Yeah, sure.
briefly.
Yeah, sure. So what we have done here is that, see, just a second, scroll up a bit. So this actually gives you a few things, one of which will be the distribution and the presence of outliers. Okay, so this will tell you about the distribution of the variable that you are studying, and also if there are any outliers present. Okay, so for that we have to use this function box plot, which is plt.boxplot, and from the tips data we are calling this total bill. So we are going to look into the distribution of total bill. Okay, so this gives you the plot itself, but to make it much more presentable we have to add all these text values all these texts basically, which are all these texts, and how do we add them? So we refer to this x-axis. So x 1.1, so that is here. What? Okay, so x 1.1 will be somewhere here, and to there you are adding all these y values, on the basis of the y values, you are adding these texts. Okay, so s will give you the text that you are writing in. So whatever you write here, that gets displayed. But how do you specify that? So from the tips data, right, when you look into the total bill, the variable total bill, and you find the minimum value, so that is where this text will show up as min. Are you getting the logic? Okay, so from the tips data, when you're looking into the total bill, so minimum value, whenever you have the minimum value, then you get this display minimum. Wherever you get the first quantile, which is 0.25, quantile for what? Total bill, right, which comes from the tips data. So there you get this display, which is Q1. That's why you see that this comes out as Q1. This is our first quartile, right? This is first quartile. This is third quartile, right? So here you see that this is Q1. Similarly for Q3 and for median as well. So wherever you find the median, right? So we are using the median function itself, or we could have use this as quantile dot 0.5. So it's all the same. So and there you have to write this as median Q2. See, I have written the whole of this median and then Q2, and the whole thing got displayed here. So whatever you write there, it gets displayed. Yeah. And once we get this, then how do we understand the distribution, right? So you have the minimum value, right, and the maximum value. So this is the minimum value and the maximum value. Okay. And you have two whiskers. So this is the lower whisker and this is the upper whisker, right? So there are these two whiskers, and then you have this box. So altogether this means box and whiskers plot, right? So this box actually gives you the 50% concentration of the data, like what you have from Q1 to Q3, right? So from 25% to 75%. So that's 50% of the data is in there, inside this box, right? And the rest of the 50% is in between these whiskers that you have. Okay. Yeah. And then you can see that anything beyond this, that can be referred as outlier. Yeah, anything beyond these whiskers, so that can be referred as outliers. Now you can see that it could have been like both way, that if you get something beyond this upper whisker, then also that can be referred as outliers. Or even if you could like if you get any values which is even lesser than this lower whisker, so that can also be referred as outliers, right? Yeah, but for this particular data set, we don't have anything below 0, right? We don't have anything even lesser than this, but we see that these values are outliers or some abnormality to the data set. Yeah. And once you go through the idea of CLT and normal distribution, then you would understand like how do we get this lower and upper whisker specified. So you have formula for that, right? So yeah, so that we are trying to converge towards the normality. Okay, so that's how, because we don't want any abnormal data points into our data set if we are trying to model the data set, right? So if we want to model a data set, so any abnormal values will actually affect the modeling, because there will be more uncertainty. We won't be able to figure out a mathematical relationship if we consider all these abnormal values, right? So we are heading to that. Yeah, and how to identify this? See, the above box plot clearly shows that the presence of outliers, this is there. We can add an arrow, which is also okay. Now you see that this is very important. Also, the median Q2 is represented by the orange line, which is near to Q1 rather than Q3. See, this median value, this line is not actually dividing the whole of this box into two equal parts. Rather, it's much closer to Q1 than to Q3, right? So you see that there are less number of observations, and here from Q2 to Q3, you have more number of observations, right? So that will actually give you, yeah, so that will actually give you the idea about the skewedness of the data, skewness of the data. Okay. Yeah. So this is how we look into the distribution of the data set, as well as if there is any presence of outliers. Okay. So let's just make this plot. Yeah. Yeah. So what we have is that we have to add this arrow, So for that arrow, we write this plt dot annotate outliers. So this is what we are trying to write, annotate outliers, and then xy. So you have to write this as xy. 0.97.45 is somewhere around here, y-axis. 0.97 is somewhere around here. So there you write this. That is for this one, sorry. I mean the arrow, and then you have this the text. Okay. And then you have, these are the styles that you have, arrow props. So if you don't specify them, so it will take, by default it takes all these things. Face color equal to black, this arrow is black, and arrow style is simple. Okay. Yeah. And then you have plt dot title and plt dot y label. So this is what you have from the box and whiskers plot. Okay, so we are done with matplotlib, so which actually gives you the idea about the basic plots. Now we are going to look into Seaborn. Okay, so a few use of Seaborn. So of course you can just call Seaborn there, and if it doesn't work out for you, or maybe for the first time, you can just do a pip install instead. Okay, so this gives you some few of these advanced plots, which actually tells you much more than those of the normal, the basic plots. So one such plot is strip plot. Strip plot. Okay. So here you can side by side compare, any of the two variables, and like we are, we are trying to see that whether people, those who, I mean, those who have been to that restaurant, whether they tipped more in lunchtime or more in dinner time. Okay. And you can see, I mean, there is not that much of a significant difference, other than these three or lesser points, which can be again termed as outliers. Of course, that now that we know that outliers are also always, already there, right? Other than that, of course, the density is high for dinner, because uh, for the dinner, maybe the footfall is much more there when compared to lunch. And other than that, it looks, I mean, of course it's expected that people are more likely to tip more in terms of when for dinner rather than lunch. But significantly there is no, not much of that difference. Let's just read this once. So it can be seen that the tip amount is more at the dinner time than at lunch time, but the above plot is unable to display the spread of the data. We can plot the points with the spread using jitter parameter in the strip plot. So that is an advancement. Yeah, of course, like that they, I mean, like what it's written in here, that the tip amount is more at dinner, which is true. But to be very honest, not that much as well, right? Because only a few of the points are there, and again that you have presence of outlier. So this is the gut feeling, or whatever, uh, seeing things, everything at once, and not too closely. So that will actually give you the idea, I mean, how to deal with a data set. So you have to consider everything all together, and you have to see it from a distance, so that the picture, the overall picture becomes very clear. And because if you closely look into this, then of course this statement is okay, as because we are trying to study, I mean, strip plot. So for that it's okay, fine. But when you consider the previous enumerations, like whatever you have done so far, and that the distribution of the data and all, so then that it might not make that sense. Okay, so let's just come to this one. Then we have jitter. So if you have jitter equals to 2, so that will actually accommodate all the points. Here you see that all the points are overlapping or something. So here it will actually accommodate all the points side by side, so that you can get to see much more better presentation. So of course the dinner for dinner you have the density far more than when compared to lunch. Okay. So the plot shows that for most of the observations, the tip amount is in the range of 1 to 3, irrespective of the time. Yeah, that is also there. Irrespective of the time, you can see that you have the measured density. So that is in this half, right? So it's below 3 or below 4, even like that. So 1 to 4, right, or 1 to 3. So you have the measured density, right? Above that, you have very less number of people. And in lunch, it's really not that likely that someone will tip more than $4. Okay. So next we have this swarm plot, which is again an advancement over the strip plot. So the swarm plot is similar to that of strip plot, but it avoids overlapping of the points. So now what you can do is you can visualize the frequencies as well. I mean, the number of points that you have. So here you have the data set. This is how the data set looks like. And then this is the command sns.swarm plot, and y is tip, x is time. See, I mean, the advantage for Seaborn is that it has got much simpler syntax, So you have this and data, you have to just specify the data, and then you have plot show. So this gives you this outcome. Now, what are the things that you can actually find out from this data? I mean, this representation of the data. Firstly, you can see that these are the frequencies, right? Okay. So you can see like more number of people are tipping lesser than 3, right? Which holds true for dinner as well. See, this is much bigger or more in length than that of all these. So that is one thing. And what is the distribution or the pattern for lunch, and what is the pattern for dinner? See, I mean, yeah, so you can see that 2 is most common, right? So people are tipping $2, mostly $2 for lunch. But for dinner, like you can see that this is a bimodal thing. Though, I mean, it won't be that right to say this as bimodal, sorry, my bad. Rather than because you have 2 and 3, like which are like very closely related, right? But of course, there is a sense of bimodality here. So those who have tipped 2 and those who have tipped 3 are maximum, right, when in comparison to some other tip that you have. And for higher order tipping, that is really less. Also, that these are these must be the outliers, right? So this is what you get to see from swarm plot. Okay, so let's just read this out. So the above plot gives a good representation of the tip amount of the data. For the data, it can be seen that the tip amount is 2 for most of the observations, right? Like you can see for lunch, and we can see that swarm plot gives a better understanding even for dinner actually. So that's a standard practice, to give $2 maybe. So this is what you have. We can add another categorical variable in the plot by using a parameter hue. So this is one more thing. If we want to add one more aspect, to this data set. So by specifying this hue. So if hue is equal to data, so the whole thing gets colored accordingly. And this is how you see. Okay, so hue is day. So of course, all these things needs to be categorical. Of course, I mean, you just want to see, from which category you are getting all these data points, right? So you have to specify a category, which is hue. So all the colors that you have there. Accordingly, you get all these Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, right? So now you tell me, like, what do you observe from this? What do you observe? Yeah, don't read this out. Just tell me, what you at a glance, like, what do you observe from this data set or this representation of the data? First thing is that you see that blue stands for Thursday. So, practically all of the data points are from Thursday, right? So maybe, there is some problem with that particular
Easily
restaurant.
understandable according to days.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get you. What?
I said like due to colors, it will be easily understanding, right? As
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Yeah, of course. Now, I want you to infer in terms of the data, like what aspect of the data you can explore looking into this graph. So that you see that, like for Thursday, you practically have all the people, those who are coming in for lunch, they actually come in on Thursday, right? A few of them come on Fridays. And other than that, you don't have like anything, no one comes for lunch on Sundays or maybe Saturdays, right? So you don't have any green or red here in the lunch section, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So maybe, people get tired or something like that. They don't want to cook the lunch or something, or maybe there is, more demand of lunch for Thursday, maybe somewhere around the mid of the week, right? Uh, yeah, same for Fridays as well. Thursday, Friday. So around midweek, there is more demand for lunch, and there is really less demand for dinner on those 2 days, Thursdays and Fridays. Though you can see like few of them are Fridays, right? So few of them do actually go to have dinner on Fridays, but certainly no one comes for dinner on Thursdays, isn't it? Right? See, you
Yes.
won't find any blue spot here. Yeah. So maybe for Friday, so what is the general behavior that you observe from here? Customer behavior. So if you want to notice the pattern, the pattern is already there in the data, and also it should be somewhere in your mind as well. So you just have to correlate in between two, and then you get the actual you know truth about observing the data set. So
That the tip
anything
is
like,
more on Saturday and Sunday.
yeah, that is there, of course. That is okay. That is evident from the graph. But if you really want to predict, in terms of the customer behavior, so what are the things that you can actually infer from here?
That people visit for dinner outside mostly on Saturday and Sunday.
Sundays, right? Which is true.
Yeah.
And that of course you can see that Saturdays are mostly, much more when compared to Sunday. Right? So people usually go out for dinner on Saturdays and not Sundays, because maybe for the next day, for on Monday, they again have to go to their
Start the
work.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So mostly, the concentration is around Saturdays, right? And what about Fridays? You still find like a few of these on Fridays. So mostly, people are, altogether,
Starting of the
few of
weekend.
them, no, on Fridays. So when they get done with their work, right? So that is the last working day, maybe Friday. So a few of them are actually interested to have their dinner on Friday itself. So they want to enjoy, or have a good time going out like that, just to celebrate the weekend then and there, or maybe they want to reserve their Saturdays and Sundays for some other purpose or something like that, right? Altogether, people do get tired, and it's nothing like that everyone has to have their dinner straight away after getting done their office and all, right? So that is also one thing. So it's just that how you try to build your story. It's okay to have the wrong story, but it's of course important to build a story with the logic can be fake, the story can be fake, but the logic cannot be fake, of course. It should get supported by whatever you say. And see, even if I'm wrong, but the data can actually tell me, whatever I'm saying. So you have to agree on looking onto this graph. You can't deny me. So that's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you have to practice, all these thought process, which will eventually develop you as an analyst. So you might be wrong, you might be right, it doesn't matter. It's just that you have to come up with your own story, and you have to have some logic behind that, mathematical logic or some graphical logic. Okay. Yeah. So next is violin plot. So this is another plot, violin plot. So this looks like a violin, that's why this is violin plot. So this is what you have. Again, this comes from SNS, Seaborn, and just specify total bill, day, and data. And you get this one. So this also gives you the distribution as well, not just the display. So also the distribution or the shape of the distribution. So now you can see for so the total bill, okay, and this is the bill amount. So for Thursdays, you see that this is more positively skewed, no? See, the concentration is on the left hand side. Here you have the concentration, and less as you move along for the higher tip, right? And also you can side by side compare the mean tip for all these things, the median tip actually. So you see that this is slightly like why you have this line, so this is slightly above than that of this one. So on Saturdays and Sundays, people do, give slightly more tip. So that is also there.
That is because more people visit on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, could be. Or maybe it could be that for Thursdays and Fridays, they go out all alone, or maybe with their co-mates or something. But on Saturdays and Sundays, they go out with family or, couples like that. So they have to maintain some tipping amount like that way as well. I can be wrong about my story, but it's just that I've come with one. So that's important.
Yes, sir.
And you won't be able to deny it. So that is the practice, like what you have to do looking into anything. So just that you have to come up with your own. Now you see, this is things get much interesting now.
I'll give you just a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
See, what happens is, like, let's say you're talking to the restaurant owner, and you found out that, okay, right, you're more likely to get tips during the weekends, and your observation is like during the weekends there is a lot of couple flow which is there, right? And you are getting more tips. So to increase that, what you will do, you'll tell them that, okay, why don't you create more promotions for the couples, right, and get even better. That can be one. And then you see that, like, okay, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, there is no flow of dinner, right? So why don't you have some kind of scheme where you say that, like, if you're having dinner on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you will have, right, 50% off, like, or you say that during lunch there is something called as an happy hours. So all these can be actually analyzed through all this data, and like you can give them the solution for what needs to be done next. Got it?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is how you have to, you have to treat the business problem and come up with a business solution, right? So it's all about not just studying the data, but of course that you have to give some solution to that, all those little loopholes that you have and things where you can improve. So yeah, if you are having, lesser number of footfalls in for dinner, on Thursdays, so of course you can keep some 50% off, or like that's, you can have some scheme to improve the footfall. Yeah, so the above violin plot shows the total distribution is nearly same for different days. Yeah, the distribution more or less is same, but we can add another categorical variable to the above plot. Yeah, so where actually things get more interesting. So now in here, see, though we are having more or less similar distributions, if we divide this into males and females, So then you can see, like the split is true. So we have to include this as well. Split is true. And then you can see, blue is for male and this color saffron, I guess. So that's for female. And then you can see that the distribution is somewhat very much different to, males and females, for males and females. Right. So on Fridays, you see that, the tip amount is positively skewed. So really less number of people, those who are actually tipping high among men. For female, they do maintain some, minimum tipping. I mean, that is how, things are, things like that. But when you see that, when it's on Saturdays, on Sundays, there is some sort of pressure where you see that even men are, tipping, though it's slightly, skewed to left, but you have this positively skewed, but still you have, considerable tipping amount, say, which can be, maybe there is some issue with, uh, you know, family presence, or maybe as a couple they have went out like that, so they have something to maintain, that, how much they tip or something like that. So, or this is the total bill as well. So this is a distribution for total bill, not the tip. So the total bill. So that is what you have to, look into. So there, no significant difference, of course, like significantly, you won't be able to say like if there is any difference other than this one, maybe there is some sort of significance. But that is likely to check for data visualization, like we have so many aspects to check for the data set. So this enables you to understand, like what are the aspects to look into the data set so that you can proceed with your analysis. Okay. So that is the purpose of data representation. And then you have pair plot. Okay. So this pair plot gives you the pairwise distribution of the variables. Okay. So this is the function pair plot, what we use. So first you have to, this is the size of the figure, fixed size, and SNS pair plot tips data. And this is how you get the whole of the matrix that you have, which will include all the variables that you have here. Yeah. So whenever you have total bill, so how to read this? Of course, you have X labels and Y labels, right? So correspondingly, you get the graph. So this is for total bill versus total bill. So if you're dealing with the same variable, so of course that will give you a histogram, where you can look into the distribution of that. So if you're dealing with a continuous variable, it will give you it will give you a distribution like that, histogram like that. If you're dealing with a discrete variable like size, right? So that will give you these plots, bar plots. Okay. Okay. Other than that, you have total bill versus tip. So now you can see that there is a positive trend, or correlation among total bill and the tip, right? And this graph is just the same, because here also we have tip and total bill. See, this is total bill and tip, and this is tip versus total bill. So it just got interchanged basically. So it's a transpose in that way. Okay. So here also you see that there's a positive, correlation. Other than that, these are the plots that you get here. So these are as because discrete values, so you have the concentrations like that. Okay. Just the same graphs, all this tip versus size, and then you have tip versus size. So these two are just the same. Yeah. So this is okay. Let's just read this out, what they have to say here. So the above plot shows the relationship between all the numerical variables. Total bill and tip has a positive linear relationship with each other. Now it's really important that we refer to this linear word, because there might be some other sort of relationship, you know. So also total bill and tip are positively skewed. Like you see that total bill and tip are positively skewed, right? This is much more skewed to right here. And then you see that size has a significant impact on total bill, as the minimum bill amount is increasing with an increasing number of customer size. So Okay, so that is there for tip and total bill. Okay, so these are the inferences that you actually have to uh, write in your mini project. Okay, so this plot, so this gives you the distribution of any of the features that you want to deal with. So total bill, so this actually smooths out the curve here, the histogram, and from here you can see much more clearly that there is a positive uh, you know skewness. So we can interpret from the above plot that the total bill amount is between range to 10 to 20, for large number of observations. As you see that these frequencies are much more, right? The density here, so it's more there in between here to here. So 10 to 20, you have the maximum concentration basically. And the distribution plot can be used to visualize the total bill for different times of the day. So clearly you can specify this for some other days, and even for lunch hours or for dinner, like that. See, so you see that for lunch, typically the total bill is lesser when compared to that of dinner, right? Because, and also look into the spread of the data set. This is really narrow and this is wide, right? So the concentration here is more mostly from here to here, so 5 to 20 maybe, but here you can see the concentration is from 10 to 30. Okay, so these are all that you can actually infer. So let's just look into this syntax once. So now we have included this time, which is lunch, dinner, and then here we have used this for loop. So for I in time, so we use this subset command, right? So tips data, and then time is equal to I, right? So this is when it is equal to I. So for I equal to 1, which is lunch, and I equal to 2 equals to, which is dinner, right? So you get it like this way. Okay, hist false will not plot the histogram. So as because they have specified this hist false, so you won't be getting to observe this histogram, what you have there in the background for the first one, right? Yeah, so you won't be getting that histogram. It's just the distribution now. And then you have KDE equals true. So this is the density, kernel density, right? So if that is true, then everything gets converted as density, right? Okay, and then you have the shades. So if you want the shade, so that is there, and label. Okay, label I, so whatever the value of I, so accordingly it gets labeled lunch and dinner, right? So it can be seen that the distribution for lunch is more right skewed. Distribution for lunch, it's more right skewed, right, than that of dinner. And this implies that customers are spending more time on dinner than lunch. Yeah, more time means, of course, the total bill, or maybe they are ordering more food, so that will be the right word. So I mean, some way, the total bill is much more for dinner rather than for lunch, but you have maximum people, those who are actually tipping in between, this to this for lunch, and for dinner you have the spread like much more. Okay, and then you have count plot. So now we advance from the general bar plot that we have. So if you want to have multiple bar diagram, or we want to divide the data, so we can use this count plot, and you have to specify the data and X day and hue time. Okay, so accordingly it will give you. So you can actually incorporate like two of these features as well into the same graph when you're counting by day. So you have like day is also there, and also you have lunch and dinner. So for each of the days you can actually compare the lunch and dinner. So now you can see that things get much more clear now here. Say for Thursday, maximum number of people, I mean mostly everyone actually came for lunch, but for dinner, I mean there is really less number of people, actually zero, right? This is zero only. And then you have for Fridays, you have lunch and dinner, so more people joining in for lunch, for dinner rather than lunch. But on the weekends you see that practically, I mean, there is no one who actually joined for lunch, rather than everyone came for dinner. So this is what you can get to see. All the observations recorded on Saturday and Sunday are for dinner, which is there. Observations for lunch on Thursday is highest among the lunchtime. Yeah. So mostly like people tend to have their lunch in the midweek. Okay, next we have heat map. So whatever you get to learn, so everything is actually can be brought into this two-dimensional graphical representation of data, where the individual values that are contained in a matrix are represented as colors, and each square in the heat map shows the correlation between variables on each axis. Correlation is a statistic that measures the degree to which two variables move with each other, right? So this is what we have. This is how we named our correlation matrix as this CORR underscore matrix. And this is the function that we use. So from the data set, tips underscore data. So correlation, right? And this is the correlation matrix, right? So it's just the same thing like what we got from there in terms of the figure, now in terms of the numerical values. So you can see that tip and total bill is having somewhat positive correlation of 0.67. Now, of course, this varies from study to study, or research to research, or field to field. But for restaurant business, or things related to restaurants, so 6.67 is a fairly good correlation, basically. So you can refer this as a strong correlation. Okay, even for size, but size, there is a positive correlation, of course, but not that strong when you have this for tip and total bill. Other than that, nothing much. Tip and size, this is not that positive, not that strong correlation, significantly, what you can claim. And also that see that when you are dealing with the same variable, so all the diagonal entries are 1, right? So correlation of a variable with itself is always going to be 1, right? So that is also there. Now we convert the whole thing into this pictorial representation, and this actually gives you so much of information, in terms of picture. So which is really easier to understand, and also gives you the gist, at a glance. So you have this heat map correlation matrix and not equals to true, and then plot dot show, so which gives you this on their own. And lighter the color, you see that more is the correlation, right? So 1 is very light, right? Which actually doesn't have like any input in terms of understanding the data set. Of course, it's going to be 1 for if you are finding the correlation of the same variable with itself. But for other than that, you can see that this is dark black, right? So these two variables are having really less correlation for size and tip, right? Here you have tip and size, they're the same. And this is symmetric, of course, above the diagonal. And then you have this one, which is even lighter to this one. So this is something, this is which is having the most correlation, total bill and tip. So let's just read this out. The above plot shows that there is moderate correlation. See, they have used this word moderate now. Okay, moderate correlation between the total bill, 0.68. So which can fairly be termed as strong correlation also. Okay, the diagonal values are 1 as a correlation of the variable with itself, right? And so other than strong, what do we have is perfect. So perfect means it's really close to 1, or maybe above 0.9 in a practical sense. So that is perfect positive correlation. Similarly, you can have perfect negative correlation. So this can be a strong positive or strong negative. So if you have a negative value there, so that's going to be negative correlation, right? Okay, so this is what we have from data.
Pratyay, can you just run the data frame head below the cell? df.head, whatever data frame you have named it as.
Okay.
The original data frame, just the cell below, because I want to explain them the understanding of the feature.
Yeah, I actually haven't,
Okay, so this is fine. Okay.
So I have to run this actually. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. So now if you see right? So there are different columns and rows, correct? Yeah, Zaira and Spandana. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So each of the right from this, like what happens is there is something called as feature engineering. So each of them will be one feature. Each like consider that like okay, the bill or any kind of, there would be number of heads, right? The columns which are there, each of them will be independent by itself. That means it will indicate one feature, right? Whenever you are running, for example, you are going to run a particular data set which has got, right, 200 columns. So this 200 becomes feature by itself. And from there, like you have to start with targeting on the one which you are going to work on for your data. Like for example, you're going to take in this kind of data set, you're going to take care of the bill amount, or your focus is on the day, you know. So you will select one feature and compared to that, right, how it is correlated with the others. So the more columns you have, and like you are going to compare with the more feature, like more columns is like more feature you have, the correlation plot will start growing bigger and bigger, because the number of, right, features will be higher and higher. So and with each of them, how each other are correlated is going to show you in the plot as well, and as well as like statistically when you read about it. You understood?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So altogether, if this is like bigger, so the scatter plot, if this heat map is really big, so all these little uh, the details that won't matter, rather than the colors that will actually give you an information at a glance to check like with what variable that you have the highest correlations. This is very similar, like this is really close to each other, 0.68, 0.6. But if this is really big, right, really big, suppose if you are with many of these features now, so from there you will just have to see the color, and the color reference will actually enable you to understand the relationship much better, rather than getting into all this detail, and then you can look for the detail. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do I, yeah. Yeah. So do we have time? So let's just deal with a few more data sets that we have here. Should we?
Yeah.
Or
Yes, sir.
like we should like look into the mini project, and then I won't be letting this available for the mini project but I have a demo solution. As you can see, of course your solution can be much more different than that of mine. So instead of going into this, let me just look into this one. I guess that's better. Yeah. So this is the same thing that we are dealing with, right? Automobile.csv. And this is how we put in the data set. And this is how the data look. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just show you this so that you can have, the idea and work on your own. So this is the total thing that you have. So see, so many of the features are there here in this sort of data set. So firstly, what you have to do is that you can look into the summary of the data. So automobile.describe, so that will give you all these things. Okay. And after that, yeah. After that, if there is, so you can look into this as well. So automobile.fill.na, automobile.mean axis equal to 0. So this will replace, all the values which are having NaN values with the mean of each column. Now it can be dangerous, to replace all the NaN values by mean. Rather than that, you have to come up with your own analogy where you actually have to understand whether it's better to replace it by mean or by median. Okay, so that is also there. Replacing all the NN values by mean might affect badly, impact badly in your data set. So this is your info. So you can just check the data types. And then now we look into the data cleaning part. So if you match this with the description that you have there, so for number of those, you can see that these are all misplaced, misspelled, right? So for that, this 4, so this is what gets corrected as this, and in place equal to true. So replace the correct value for the typo errors in number of those columns. So this is how we do it. So first you have to identify what is there, and then you have to replace this by this. Okay, and then this is also capital, so you can just so you can find your own typos, so for that you have to look into the data set. And so this is how str.strip, I hope like you have looked into this function, right? Str.strip. So here we are stripping of all the white spaces that we have. So if we have like any extra white spaces in between the entries, so that gets stripped off, right? And then you have this value.counts. So this print the count of the variable. So now you can see that for number of doors, you have 4-doored vehicle, right? 147 of them, and 2-door vehicle as 89 of them. Okay, and this is integer type. Similarly, you can just work on with all, for all the variables that you're working with. So for aspiration, maybe, see there is a error here for this spelling, turbo. So, you can just replace that by this. And this std is capital, so you make it small. And of course, that you have to remove the extra white spaces. So this is all what we do, like, for all these features that we work with. Okay. And after that, see, here you see that Nissan gets replaced by this. See, this should be Volvo, right? So there is some sort of error. So you just replace this by Volvo. And then what you have is, yeah. So again, number of cylinders gets replaced. So the same thing. Okay, here we are counting out the make. So this is the make of the car. So now you can see that Volvo is producing the maximum number of cars, other than Toyota, Nissan, Mazda, Honda, and all so on. Okay. Number of cylinders. So mostly you observe that 4-cylinder cars, right? Mostly 4-cylinder cars, and hardly you find 12 or 3-cylinder cars. Yeah. So you get the mean and all these things, right? Mean. So then, okay. Now for the symboling, you will see that the symboling ranges from -3 to +3. So for that, if it's equal to 4, then you have to do something about it. So for that, when it is equal to 4, so you have to do something about it. Okay, and now you see that this is from 0 to -2. The value counts. So you just have to drop. So you can use drop, and from the index, like whatever you have. So the indexes now. Okay, so accordingly you can drop them if they are having 4. So this actually gives you the indexes for which you are having this value 4. Or what you can do is you can replace them by 3, as that is the maximum value, I guess. Just have to look into, like this symbolic column. Yeah, it's 3, I guess. 3 is already there. So you can replace 4 by 3, or maybe decide to drop it. You have to come up with your own logic. Okay, so there's the same thing, shape, and then you get the description, and then symboling value counts. Okay, and so this is how you see, all these things, symboling, make, and drive wheels for symboling when it is equal to 3. So for all the symboling, whenever you have 3, wherever you have 3, so you want to find the make and the drive wheels. Okay, so you are sorting the values by symboling. Okay, so these are the few things that they have done maybe I mean, to explore, some aspect of the data. And then you have this. So where you have to choose one column with nominal values, one column with ordinal values, and one column with numerical values. So this is your part of the second mini project that you have. So this is, now you see that this is ordinal, right? Because this is categorical, but still you can order them. And then you have nominal, where you don't have a sense of ordering, but it's categorical. And then you have purely numerical variables, right? So these are the things that you have. Okay. And then you can generate pie charts for, though this is not quite preferred, because if you're opting for a pie chart for make, you see that there are overlapping things. So either you have to make this much big, or maybe you have to shift to some other thing. Histogram for horsepower. Okay. So you can see, and accordingly you have to infer what is the distribution of this. Okay, this is the study between any of the two variables, like you have to do. So now if you see the relationship between horsepower and price, you see that if the price increases for horsepower, so if you increase the horsepower, the prices are more likely to increase. So that is also there. If you want to study in between, something, so when x is equal to 10, y equal to 21, so for that you get all this normalized losses on horsepower. So that is there. Okay. Now we haven't looked into box plots, where we can side by side compare this. So it's just an advancement, like whatever we have done there. So here we can actually see that for diesel and gas, you can just fuel type, and then here you have the symboling. So you can check whether the median for this one, whether that is equal to that of this gas, which is not actually, right? This is much below than that of this. So accordingly you can compare. Okay. And then you have this. Okay. Similarly, I can surf you through another one. Just have a quick look on whatever we have done here. So you can just use these commands instead. So for automobile make, replace this by this in plus equals to true, right? So all together you can do this. Describe for NN checking. See here, the price that has been replaced for the NA values, that has been replaced by the median. Everything got replaced by the median, but you can mix and match things accordingly, like whatever support you have to that. So we can compare according to the make.
One quick addition.
Yeah.
So whenever you're filling right NAs, right, it will always depend on the number of right spots that you have, like the NAs that you have on each of the section or each of the columns. Now, for example, there are only 2 NAs, right? And and there are no other supporting data with other features for those 2 NAs, right? You probably, right, you have to decide to drop the column instead of like filling them, because if you don't drop them, because there are no other supporting documents. The whole idea is like, if there are no supporting columns for that particular NA, apart from one column, every other column is an NA for that particular row, you might as well drop it, because it's not supporting anything. Everything is going to be mean and median.
Yeah.
You have to decide what exactly you want as the number on that particular column. Depending on the column, you will decide whether you need to fill it with a particular number, whether you want to fill it with the average, whether you want to fill it with median, mean, whatever number or you want to just specific automatically say that, okay, it will be this number. It will automatically. What the computer is going to do is this, it's going to do what you are going to tell. The important part is like you tell the computer to the current. So the computer is one, what do you say, dumb thing. So whatever you are going to say, it's going to do.
Yeah.
You know, it does not have a brain of its own. Whatever it has been instructed, it's going to do that. So this is the place, it's very important that where your right thought process, your analytical skills, right, this is the place where your human brain has to work. That what you need to fill it with. So your previous all analysis, like, okay, well, whether you're checking the head, whether you're checking the tail of the data set, or whether you're checking other data points, you have to be sure that what exactly you want and what is, and based on your industrial knowledge, right, or on your research, you will fill in these numbers, not just randomly fill in. Right? Not everything can be median, not everything can be mean. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Continue.
yeah. So here we are comparing the price, along with all the makes of the car, and that you can see that of course there is, huge differences in terms of the price for different make, and a few of them are really expensive. The one you can see here is Jaguar, right? The other one is Benz, okay, Porsche. All these things are expensive when compared to Chevrolet or Honda or all these things. Okay. This is not recommended, but still, like this is the distribution of the symboling and price. So -2 to 4. Now, this shouldn't be there, but still it's here because I mean, in this particular document, we didn't clean this 4, the symboling 4 there. It shouldn't be there, as because if you look into the description for the dataset, so maximum range is from -2 to 3 or -3 to 3, like that. Okay. Now that you have to come up with a few of these, hypotheses. So we are checking the horsepower with the engine size, and of course you see that as the engine size increases, the horsepower is more likely to increase, right? Highway mileage and city mileage. So this is a comparison between highway mileage and city mileage. So with the increase in highway mileage, the city mileage, so this is something, I mean, we hardly can infer anything from here. I mean, what should be your support, like if we compare city mileage and highway mileage, what should be the right way to compare that? We can do a box plot, side by side, where we can see where the city average is better than that of highway average or not. So that should have been a better way to represent the data rather than this one. I mean, this gives you the quality of the car. So yeah, one such inference can be that for a car which is having a good highway mileage is actually performing well enough in city conditions as well. So yeah, that can be one, exploration. And then you have this price and the city mileage. So now you see that higher the price, the mileage of the car is really low, because the other features that you have, maybe those are expensive, or maybe the horsepower is much more, engine size is large, but it consumes more fuel. So that is there. Okay, so mostly where you have a price segment for say somewhat from there you have the maximum concentration. So you can find like a good mileage car in between this price boundaries. So that is there. But overall, it's decreasing. And then this is the total thing that you have. See, this is the idea of when you are handling, so many of the features. So this is really confusing, and that you have to find out, which is what. So which is really difficult. So for that, you can actually refer to the heat map, so which gives you much more better understanding, in a broader sense. Okay, so next we have is treating outliers. Yeah. So there are basically, three things that you can do. So one is that you can keep it, or you delete it, or you recode it, right? And you have to apply all these things, accordingly, according to the need of your data set. And yeah, so this is how we actually, this is a formulation, like how we formulate Q1 and Q3 as a quantiles, and this is your IQR, which is Q3 minus Q1. And this is the outer fence is your whiskers, right? So that is there. And accordingly, everything else other than that can be referred as your outlier. Okay. These are the quantiles. If you want to look into, you can always do that. Okay. So these are the distributions that you have. These are some other advanced methods. We are not going to look into all those, rather than, just this. So I'll make this document available for you so that you can, read through like this. Okay. So do I have more time, or maybe Bhuvaneshwari is going to take on from here?
No, Prati, you can complete it. No issues.
Okay. So just a quick look into this. Okay. So let's just look into this as well. First, we import all the libraries. So this is a property data. Okay. And this is how the data looks like. We are just going to browse through, all the findings from here. Okay. Yeah. So here, if you can see that there is a problem, with this one. So you have is null sum. So that gives you, whether there is any null values, and you can see that there are a few null values, corresponding to each feature, and that you have to identify that. So for this, you can refer to this one, any, and this gives you the index, right? Where you have all the entries as NN, and you can just remove that part, and then everything else becomes NN free. So this is the univariate analysis. So residential units. So for that, we are doing this box plot, and here you can see that there is one outlier. Okay. So this is residential unit, and you see that mostly 1, 2, 3, mostly 1, and you have 2 as well. This is the count plot. So total units, right? So these are the counts for the total units that you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Okay, so this gives you the kurtosis, and the skewness and the kurtosis, right? Or the data set. This is close to 1, see, so that's why it's positively skewed. This is square feet, distribution of the square feet. This is distribution of plot size, which is really weird. But you can see this is bimodal, right? So you have, most of the plot size around here and also here. So the demand for bigger plot is there, and not too small plot is also there. So you can look up to, this with this analogy. Okay, so next, Yeah, so this is a build-up area. So again, you can see some sort of a skewness associated with it. So this is how, we have to proceed. We have to consider each of the features and look, deep down into it, so that we can get it clean, and also we know the distribution, and we have to see, if there are any missing values or something. So all these things are there. Now you can see this is negatively skewed, right? This is a negatively skewed data set. It's skewed to left, and which should support this as well, all this measure as well, which is closer to -1, right? So you have a negative skewness there. Yeah. So you can just quickly go through all these things. So yeah. So if you see about the selling price, right? So here you see that the median, this is your Q1, this is your Q3. So the median is again much closer to that of Q1. And also this box is much more closer to the minimum. So that is also one hint, that you have to see this, the shift of this box, whether that is towards the lower side or towards the higher side. Generally you will get to observe the same thing, in terms of the median and Q1, Q3. See, so this is towards the left hand side. So that way you can understand about, the skewness. Yeah, this is a practical data set, so it looks weird, but likewise you can see that, you know, there is some sort of positive skewness here, right? Not that much, because here also you have the, considerable mass or considerable density here, but of course there is a tilt towards, for this tail you have like a few observations. Okay, so this is how we can actually identify or remove all these outliers. So for any data which is lesser than Q1 minus 1.5 into IQR, which is your lower whisker, right? And you have this one as well. Or if it's greater than Q3 plus this, then for the sum of the data and then divide the shape of the data, so that can be termed as outliers, and then you can get the percentage of outliers with respect to all the features that you're studying. Like you can see that this is really total built up, so that needs to, like this is 0.83, this is 2.62, so this is there. Okay, so this gives you the percentage, so from where you can also identify like which are the features that you really need to work on. Okay, so this is the pair plot. Okay, here you can see some trend. Yeah, so this is like where we have so many of the features, so this comes really handy. So in terms of looking into the data set overall, right? So just try to find the lighter colors. So, and then you will see this is much light, this is even lighter. So these are really significant, this should be really significant correlation, so that you have to identify from your data set. So residential units and the total units, so that has got a significant positive correlation, right? So that is there. And then you can see about anything other than that, you have this 0.83. So distribution landmark and the selling price. Yeah, so of course there should be some sort of correlation between the landmarks and the selling price. So if it's closer to some landmark, of course the selling price will increase. So that is there, that is also there. And also that you have to search for darker colors, where you have like little no correlation here for post office and the total units, or maybe post office and total built up area. So that has got like not that quite much of correlation there. Okay, and even the negative ones, these are the negative ones, right? Black, which is below 0. So even that has got like not that significant negative correlation. Yeah. Okay. So now that we haven't got started with the regression, but I mean, these are the few things that we do here. So we have to import this train test split. I hope like, this was done, you know, in the class, right? Was this discussed in the previous class?
No, no,
Pratik,
No,
I
no.
think
Okay.
we
So,
didn't touch
regression has
that.
not yet started.
okay. So, I mean,
It's
this is
like
how
after
we.
the project and after you complete
Right.
the main project, once it completes, then like
Yeah.
we will go to regression. So
Yes.
first
So let's
they'll
just
have
stop here then.
yeah, that's like, and also one thing, uh,
So yeah, just a second, if I can
Zaira,
just,
yeah,
you know,
Zaira and Spandana. Yeah, let me just tell you. What you'll have to do is even this mini project, right? You will have to upload it on your GitHub page. Okay, so understand how you will create this notebook, this as the entire project as a repository, and upload it and work on it, so that how you are going, once you are right ready with the project, what you will do is like you will push your GitHub repo from here to the GitHub page, from your local drive to the GitHub page. Okay, so once you complete that work, or maybe like you can do the reverse way also. You create a repository on the GitHub page, and from there just clone it onto your system, and then what you do is from there you push it. Understood?
Okay,
Yes.
sir. Yes.
Yeah. So because your GitHub page should look greener. The more you work on the GitHub page, right, the map will show there as greener. The more green it is, the better for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's where like the
Okay,
companies are going to look for people.
Okay.
Okay. So I mean, we can find you companies to give interviews or things like that, but then after that, like it's all like your project has to speak for itself. There's no certificate in the world speaks easily. So the first thing is like, even if you're certified by Google, IBM, everybody, when it comes to practicalities, these are the things they will ask you to explain your projects in the technical interviews. There would be one set where you'll have to code and then send it. That is one. Second is when you are going to write, when you have completed a project, they will ask you the entire storyline of the project. Like, what was the business purpose to how did you achieve the purpose? Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so start focusing on that. At the end result is like, okay, you need to have a complete understanding of what you're working on. Clear?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, Pratik, continue.
Yeah, just the thing that I wanted to tell here is that I mean, the purpose of this study is that we are trying to build a model on the pricing. How do we price different locality? On the basis of all these features that we have. So it's just that we are trying to predict the price of a certain property on the basis of the zip code and the residential unit, total unit, and all these features. So that is, for that, I mean, that's why we are trying to get into the correlation, and then we are trying to regress the pricing on the basis of the other features that we have. Yeah. Okay. So I guess, I mean, that's all. I mean, what I had from data visualization. So if you have any doubts or anything that you want to, talk about, so you can always do that. And also let me know in the group as well. Okay.